February 19th, Retirement Board of Allegheny County meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you please do a roll call?
Yes. Frank DeCristofaro.
Present.
Sarah Innamorato. Here. Kimberly Joyce. Jennifer Liptak. Sarah Roca. Here. Amy Weiss Clements. Here. President Brusslers.
Present. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comment, but I will introduce in my report section, we have an online form now to fill out for public comment.
Great,
too.
Thank you. The President's update, an update that the working group for Plan Funding and Modernization met on January 28th and February 19th of this year. I have no other updates at this time. Items for board approval.
First item is a motion to ratify the approval of the board meeting minutes for the December 18th, 2025 board meeting.
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
The second is a motion to accept the financial statements, which include the pension fund assets, the statement of changes in plan net assets, and the RBAC balance sheet for November and December 2025.
Make that motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
The next is a motion to approve the February, my mistake, February invoices totaling $400,038.30.
Make that motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? And again, this is it's a little different from the agenda. It's to approve the February invoices.
February, yeah. They're the December ending quarter, but we're paying them in February.
Okay, great, thanks. Motion second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
Okay, and next are applications. The first will be a motion to ratify the approval of the January 2026 applications. There were 5 early voluntary, 10 full retirement, and 2 disabilities.
Make that motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
The next item is to motion to approve the February 2026 applications. There were 21 early voluntary, 25 full retirements, 2 recalculations, and 1 payment plan.
Make that motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next, we have reports from Director Szymanski.
If you turn to your reports tab in their board booklets, I'll highlight some areas on the dashboard. Retiree payroll is up from this time last year, 4.34%. As the prior month ending, it was 12.7 million. Contributions are also up 4.11%. Number of refunds are up 6.45%. I've got a total number of memberships. Now remember, these are just active members paying into the plan, so it may differ from actual head counts, but active is 7,044. Payees or retirees are 5,466, and 363 deferred members. If you turn to the next page, pension estimates are up 53% as compared to this time last year. The budget is listed as of January 31st, 2026. And are there any questions on the dashboard items? Okay. So for board updates, I've included the draft election notice for the 2026 board member election. I'll bring back to the board for approval in March. If you have any suggested edits or anything, please let me know by the second Thursday in March before the board materials go out.
Could you briefly run through the timeline of that?
Yeah, I could do that. So the election timeline. So the board approval would be March 19th. We would mail, blast, and post the timeline March 23rd. Deadline to request the nominating packets would be April 10th. The deadline to return them would be May 8th. Our office would review and validate the petitions, and also this timeline has been reviewed with the elections office, and David Voice said it works with his schedule.
Great, and this is about 70 member signatures that they need?
62.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Then we'll notify the board of the candidates. The candidate notification and drawing for position takes place in the elections office. We'll then prepare, print, and mail the ballots. The final board meeting of the term is June 18th. The deadline to return the ballots will be close of business on June 30th. And then on July 1st, we'll count the elections office will count the ballots, certify the results, and we'll notify the board and the candidates of the results. And the new term begins July 1st.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Next are 2 RFPs that are in draft form. The first is for the medical examination services. It's currently held by Phase 14. So the draft is in here. If there are no changes, we will issue or bring back for board approval in March to issue the RFPs. These will be run through the office, but will also be posted with a link on the website of purchasing so other people can see them. The draft RFP for financial wellness service is also included in there. Right now that's currently held by Duncan Financial. We're proposing a timeline for the draft for consulting services will be brought to the board in August with anticipated release in September. And as I had mentioned earlier, the online request form is now live on our board member page that if people want to make public comment, they can sign on right through there and we get notified in the office.
Great, thank you. And I'll just add on that second to last bullet, the consulting services, the asset consulting services.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
And that is all I have this month. Are there any questions? None?
Last chance on director questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Assistant Manager Carolyn Uminski with her Assistant Manager report.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Attached is the report of the education and outreach that was performed from July 1st through December 31st. If you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.
What is on tap for this coming period?
Staff typically goes to the Canes on during the day.
Mm-hmm.
I have asked staff to do evening appointments there.
Great.
Where they go, and anybody that is working those evening hours can get an estimate or ask questions.
Yep.
So that's the primary, but we always try to do airport on a quarterly or biannually basis as
Great.
well.
Thank you.
And we did go to the jail in January, so that'll be reported next
great.
report. And I believe the district attorney's office will be going to as well in March or April.
Great. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Carol. Next, we have the solicitor's report. Brian Gabriel.
Thank you, Erica. The solicitor's report is dated February 12th. There are 2 items under new matters at the very beginning of the report, which is pages 1 and 2. They are both class action matters, and I did want to mention to the board that Resolution 2025-1 was passed back in September. That was the resolution that established guidelines, and so these are the first 2, I think, that have come through in terms of recommendations that were evaluated under the guidelines. I would say generally, in this instance, one was pretty easy to say, well, it met so many of these criteria, and the other was pretty easy to say that it did not. But I did want to mention that just in case at any point there's interest in the board in terms of fleshing out that analysis or talking about it if a case is, a closer call. But turning to the first one and the recommendation, that is for Corcept Therapeutics, Inc., and that was a recommendation we received from BLB&G, and that's an action item or a proposed motion which is on the agenda, and that's for authorizing them to initiate a complaint and to seek either plaintiff or co-lead plaintiff status based upon their analysis and recommendation and our review of it.
Do we have a motion to authorize BLBG to pursue securities action against Corcept Therapeutics, Inc., and to seek lead or co-lead plaintiff status on behalf of ACERS after the execution of a standard retainer agreement?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? The motion passes.
And I had no other specific items to bring to the board's attention, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Last call for solicitor questions. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Next, we have our consultant, Chris Brokaw from Mariner Institutional.
Thank you very much. If you turn to the tab labeled Reports Mariner, I'll cover 4 items. The first of which is a second tranche of a rebalancing recommendation. If you recall, at the last meeting, we made the recommendation to move some funds to both the U.S. public equity portion of the portfolio and also the core fixed income portion of the portfolio. And this recommendation, you could say, fine-tunes the core fixed income allocation. This specific recommendation is to move $10 million from the federated high yield portfolio to the federated core bond fixed income portfolio. And that will move the and I'm on page 1 in that report section, and that will move the portfolio above the minimum fixed income investment and also move it towards the target. If you turn to page 2 shows the portfolio allocation as of December 31st, 2025. You see that $10 million proposed rebalancing in the middle of the page, $10 million coming from the core fixed income, from the high yield, and $10 million going to the core fixed income. You see the current allocations, both of those assets, and then after the transaction, the projected allocation. I will note the asterisk regarding the balances. $18 million from the already approved rebalancing from last quarter is still in process as of December 31st, 2025. $5 million of it, which came from the ERECT fund, actually came in January and went to the fixed income. And the other $13 million that is coming from the Morgan Stanley Prime Property Fund, a real estate investment, it's in a queue, and every quarter a portion of that will be paid out, and as it's paid out, invested in the core fixed income. Since we're talking about the asset allocation at this point, I will also note that I'm working, Walt and I are working together. I'm working with the pension manager on raising cash on a monthly basis. And if you look at the allocations, your non-US public equity allocation is above its target. And we have used that in the past several months when liquidity is required, and we're going to continue to use that in the future months. That will bring that allocation down towards its target. The recommendation, again, to move the portfolio into compliance with the IPS and towards the target allocation is to sell $10 million from the federated high yield and invest that $10 million into the federated core bond fund.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the rebalancing recommendation?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? The motion passes.
Thank you. Page 3 is a second item that requires action. It is our recommendation to approve the consent for the proposed restructuring of the Morgan Stanley Prime Property Fund. Morgan Stanley Prime Property Fund is your core fixed income investment in your portfolio. They are moving from their current LLC into an LP structure. So the lawyers may be able to comment on the potential difference between an LLC and an LP. The main difference from our perspective is it's going to be the same management, the same portfolio, and during this process, they are reducing the maximum incentive fee in the portfolio from 0.35 to 0.25%. So it will reduce the fees being paid on the portfolio, and all other aspects, as we see it, will remain the same in terms of the management. So we are advising our clients to approve this consent.
Is it typical, do you see both structures in the real estate field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we-
it is typical, and it appears that to a degree it's on their distribution end. It makes it easier when they're looking for new clients to invest in the portfolio. With this LP structure, it will facilitate those transactions, those potential future transactions on their part.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent with the Morgan Stanley Prime Real Estate Fund?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion passes.
Thank you. Reviewing the portfolio, there's a few pages that I want to draw your attention to. The first one is page 19. And I mentioned the asset allocation and moving the rebalancing recommendation to move that core fixed income into the investment policy range. So you see that is the one part of the portfolio that's outside of the new investment policy guidelines. So taking action to move that into the range, once that's implemented, it will be in line with the investment policy. The U.S. equity, the top line here on page 19, the rebalancing that was undertaken after the last meeting moved that portfolio into its accepted allocation range. I did mention a few moments ago using the non-U.S. equity as a source for liquidity in the portfolio. That is the one liquid portion of your portfolio that is now above its target range. So we'll continue to use that for the monthly cash flow requirements in the portfolio. I want to make mention of a few private investments or asset classes, the private real estate, which is in the middle of the page, as well as private equity, which is at the bottom of the page. The private real estate, you may recall a few funds, Valstone funds. I think it's 5 and 6 in healthcare are their names, which had been included in the private portfolio. Are real estate investments. We recategorize them into real estate, and that's part of the reason why the real estate allocation is so high. The comment that I wanted to make is 5 of the 7 closed-end funds that are closed-end private real estate funds in your portfolio have made distributions in the fourth quarter. So the total amount distributed was $3 million, and $1.5 million came from one of the Valstone funds. So in terms of gaining liquidity in the portfolio, that is, I believe, in recent years, the first investment from, or the first distribution from one of the Valstone funds. The 4 other funds are older investments in the portfolio. Some of them really, you could say, mature, so we would expect ongoing distributions. That $3 million in the quarter certainly both helps the cash flow in the fund, number one, and number two is reducing the portfolio allocation towards its target. Also, within the private real estate, I mentioned $13 million is in a queue with Morgan Stanley, and on a quarterly basis will be paid out. And finally, on this page at the bottom, private equity. In the fourth quarter, 18 funds made distributions in the fourth quarter. So continuing to generate liquidity from the private equity portfolio. Any questions on the asset allocation?
No.
All right. Page 35 speaks to performance. So the portfolio on page 35 at the top left, the total fund balance is $995 million, and that's up from $993 million as of the end of September. For the quarter, the portfolio returned 1.8%. U.S. equity, if you go down the page, U.S. equity up 3% for the quarter, and that was only bested by the non-U.S. equity, which was up over 4%. Bonds returned about 1%. High yield a bit more at 1.5%. Real estate relatively flat. Some of the holdings in there I mentioned are private. They haven't been valued for the fourth quarter. Infrastructure 1.5%, mostly income generated from that portfolio, and then the private equity was essentially flat in the quarter. Cash yields on cash portfolios are now around 3.5, 3.75, but in the quarter we're around 4.25. So cash actually earning over a 1% return. So the portfolio earning in the various asset classes as expected. The one item I would draw your attention to is the second to the last, private equity. Private equity relatively flat. We've talked about private equity before during this period, and this period meaning stretching back a number of years. Public equity markets have performed very well. Private equity during this period has been relatively flat. So that's really, when you look at the overall performance of the portfolio, that is the one large outlier. Any questions regarding performance?
No.
Going to the absolute last page of the book, there's a brief memo from iNetworks just confirming that they did receive enough votes for their consent to extend the partnership agreement. It doesn't say this specifically in the memo, but it's until December 31st, 2027. So just wanted to follow up on that discussion from the last meeting. So those are the 4 items that were on our agenda. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any other questions for Chris? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any new business? No new business. Our next meeting will be held on March 19th, 2026. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.